Desire as such is not a vice. The desire to eat is a sanctioned one when it is prompted by hunger. The desire for self-emulation is a virtue. The desire to excel another in good conduct is laudable. The keen desire to obtain the grace of the Lord is a divine gift and a prelude to God vision. So scriptures talk of Shubh Ichha, Shubh Ichha, auspicious desire. So it is the devotion of a sadhak. It is the sadhana of the sadhak which cultivates the shubhata, the auspiciousness. And then number two comes the desire. First comes the shubhata. So one has to make oneself auspicious. Then whatever desire will come in one will also be auspicious. An auspicious desire will always be legitimate, will always be right, will always be appropriate, will avoid the extremes, will always be in the center, will always be in the middle path. And that is what is again and again emphasized in the Bhagavad Gita. So finally, this Shubh Ichha has to get converted into Shubh Sankalpa. But if the Shubh is not there, only Ichha or desire is there, then desire will get intensified and it becomes longing, craving, and it becomes passion. But the same desire, if it is made into a Shubh Ichha, then Shubh Ichha would, instead of becoming a passion, it would become a Shubh Sankalpa. And the Shubh Sankalpa is a prelude to obtain the grace of the Lord. One has to make a Sankalpa to get the grace of Lord. I want you, O Lord. प्रभु दर्शन दो, प्रभु मुझे अपने चरणों में स्थान दो. These are the Shubh Sankalpas which a devotee should have. And this Sankalpa can be made only from Shubh Ichha. So one has to do lot of practice in Shubh Ichha. Shubh Ichha 1, Shubh Ichha 2, Shubh Ichha 3. And a stage comes when your all Ichhas are Shubh Ichhas only. It becomes a habit, it becomes your nature. And then one day the Shubh Ichha gets amalgamated into a Shubh Sankalpa. Shubh Sankalpa for getting the grace of the divine. And then when that happens, then it leads to intense meditation. That meditation leads one to a God vision being referred here. So the process is explained. What you start with is a raw, untamed desire. So your work has to be with this untamed raw desire. Slowly, slowly the desire has to be converted. You have to tame the desire very tactfully, very patiently. Lot of patience is required when something like desire has to be handled. Otherwise, people get burnt like a spark. So one has to be very careful with all precautions, lot of patience, wisdom, sadhana, surrender, remembrance of God. All these are necessary for touching the desire. Otherwise, desire can damage a person. And most of the damages that happen, which are called as states of the mind, altered states of the mind or the body, referred to as diseases. According to spiritual science, all the diseases start from mismanagement of the desire. Mismanagement of the desire lead to a disturbed mind, and the disturbed mind lead to a disturbed body, and that leads to all these derangements, tragedies, accidents, and at a social level, all these divorces and breakups and fights and quarrels and all that is basically with mismanagement of the desire. So what Bhagavad Gita talks about has lot of relevance to our times today. It's a step-by-step analysis of the causes and progression, explaining completely, and then how to tackle it. It is not to be done by impulse. It has to be done by knowledge. It has to be done by wisdom. It has to be done by surrender. So the raw desire has to be slowly made into first a neutral desire, then a good desire, then a pure desire. Desire, neutral desire, good desire, pure desire, and then sanctified desire. That is lot of work. But if that is done, one should consider oneself really blessed and fortunate. Then comes the second part, taking the sanctified desire forward by repeated practice of sanctified desire, till sanctified desire gets into a kind of a network. So people get into Ishta concept, a sanctified desire focused on a deity or a book. So people find the sanctified desire converting into a desire for a deity, Lord Krishna or Lord Rama. So you start having desire for Lord Rama. Then you want to relate with Lord Rama. Then you do sadhana to get the grace of Lord Rama. Or you may get a desire to make one book as your main book, spiritual book. Could be Ramayana, could be Bhagavad Gita, could be Upanishad. Again, it is the same sanctified desire which will lead you to get related to this. And then this is first is a state of blessedness, then it is a state of twice blessedness. And same sanctified desire may lead you to relate to a teacher. Listen to the teacher. Think, discuss, understand, grow in wisdom. This is thrice blessedness. And finally, one starts getting so much focused, then one starts having divine vision or a God vision. That is the ultimate. Sri Ramakrishna says, why does the mind deviate when one sits in meditation? It is due to base desires. A fly sits now on sacramental food and next on filth. But the case of the bee is different. It sits on a blossom or in its hive and nowhere else. This is an example. The worldly minded sadhakas are like the house fly and the paramahamsas like the bee. The former are occasionally devoted and the latter ever devoted to the Lord. So in the initial stages of our sadhana, we are also like that. We have a satsang, we do swadhyaya, we do our japa, but then there is a next period where our mind now gets onto the worldly matters, the worldly mannerisms, behaviors. So sometimes on the sacramental food and sometimes on the filth. But as the sadhana evolves, as the sadhak grows, moves on the path of dharma, then by the grace of God, like a bee, it always is on the nectar. That means always on sadhana, always thinking of the divine. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.